Hey guys, how's it going? I'm working on a couple of pots today. These are in our back formal garden. And it's been a little bit of a trial with these containers, trying to figure out what works in them because they're huge, they're heavy, and I can't figure out how to run drip to them effectively because they're out in the middle of lawn. There's this urn here, and then there's one on the opposite end of this kind of yard lawn area, and they're sitting on a concrete pad. So I can't figure out how to go underneath them or run drip to where you can't see the tubing. So I went with a Dracaena here earlier this spring, figuring that they don't need as much water, which is true, but they have been neglected because they're not in my normal watering routine. So I actually have to bring a watering can back here physically and water them, which, you know, it's easy to forget that sort of thing when they're kind of off the beaten path. So what I want to do today is pop these out, and they're not all the way gone. I thought I would groom them up, pot them up, and put them in our cold frame, which is what I was going to do later on this season anyway, to try to winter them over just to see if it'll work. And then I'm going to put something else in here that's fresh, that's actually hardy for our area. So hopefully we can get something to winter over in here, and maybe even something that is a little bit more drought tolerant and can stand a little bit more wind, because that's the other thing. So look at this. I've got a rock in here propping up this Dracaena because after a big windstorm, this is what happened. That's not really a good look. So I just want to fix these up a little bit. So I think what I'm going to go do is grab all the supplies I need to get these out, and we'll grab the plants as well. So to see these from a different view, this is the one I was just standing next to, and then you can see the other one on the far end. The middle urn actually belongs to a fountain that I need to fix. So anyway, let's go grab all of my supplies. So this right here is what I've decided to replace the Dracaena with. This is called a color guard Yucca. And the thing I like about this plant so much is that it looks just like, well, very similar to an agave Americana variegata, which I really like and I've had before, but they don't winter over in our area. These are hardy down to zone 4, which makes them a really good container option. And they have that same really striking, spiky kind of look with the really intense variegated foliage. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this plant out. That one had barely any root system left on it. I don't know what in the world is going on there. I'll still probably repot it, groom it up, and see what happens because these roots that are still here do look healthy. We'll see how it goes. I'm having to remove quite a bit of the soil out of this reservoir just because not a lot of it came out with the Dracaena, so that I have enough room for the new root ball. It'd be helpful if I was a little bit taller. Oh my gosh, this looks so much better already. I am just using regular potting soil too to plant this instead of like a fast draining blend, which this is technically, I think they group it in a cactus succulent kind of category because they're so efficient with water. But when they're in a container like this, I like to use regular potting soil, especially when they're out in our brutal sun all day long. I just find that it helps them along a little bit, and it keeps me from having to water quite as often. Yes, that looks so good. I think that this looks so much better and so much more to scale than the Dracaenas ever looked. Those Dracaenas were always a little bit on the small side, and I had originally thought I would come in and plant some flowers around them, and then I kind of came to terms with reality and how I probably wasn't going to be taking care of these containers as well as I take care of all the rest of them, which, you know, obviously I didn't. And I just think that this is such a great look back here. I think they show up a lot better too. So this type of yucca, the color guard, grows about 3 to 4 feet tall and about 4 feet wide if you were to plant it out in the landscape. Of course, it's not going to get quite that big in this container, but I do expect it to grow a little bit taller and beef out a little bit more. And they do produce flowers about midsummer that are really, really pretty. When the flower stalk's done, you can just cut it off at the base. Now this is probably past its bloom time. I don't expect it to bloom this year, but they are evergreen. So the fact that it's a zone 4, did I say they're a zone 4 through 10? The fact that it's a zone 4 means that I'll probably be able to get it to winter over in this container, and it'll give me winter interest. So I don't need to come in here and add any branches or anything like that. I can just leave these and they'll look great all season long. Okay, so now I'm gonna run over and do the second container, and then I'll show both of them to you, show you kind of a backed up look to see how it looks as a whole. And real quick, I did want to show you how I repotted this Dracaena. You can see that I popped off a bunch of the lower leaves that were like suffering. They were a little bit discolored and didn't look very good. Now this plant, let me move it into the shade. This plant looks a whole lot better without all of those lower leaves. And I just potted it in an old pot I had laying around in the soil that I actually got out of the big urn. So I didn't even have to use any fresh soil. Both of these plants don't require a whole lot of fertilizer or like really rich soil. And this was fresh soil this spring, so I figure that we're good both ways. I don't need to add anything to the soil. I probably will not be fertilizing. I'll probably fertilize the Dracaena just because it has been struggling. The Yucca I might fertilize once, maybe twice this season, and that's it. All right, so now for the second one. So here is a backed up look of both of the urns, and this area for some reason looks a little bit bigger in this camera screen than it does in real life, but you can definitely see the bright pop that Yucca brings down there and just the structure right here. I mean, isn't that just so beautiful? I love the simplicity. I need to bring more of that into my life and into my garden. So that is it for this morning's video. It was just a really quick 15-minute project that I tried to get out here early in the morning and get it done because it's supposed to be 108 degrees today. I just hope that this is kind of an encouragement maybe to some of you guys who maybe bit off a little bit more than you could chew. When you were getting excited about planting this spring, kind of like I was, putting something in here that maybe needed a little bit more maintenance than I was anticipating. So, you know, you can fix it at any point in the season. Go in there, take it out, take whatever it is out, put something else in that's lower maintenance or that you like the look of better. I think this is a much better look than what I had going in there. And that's what gardening is an ever evolving process. And I do it all the time because it's what I love to do, and I know many of you guys are the same. So anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning, and we will see you in the next video. Bye. P.S. There are my two Dracaenas that I think will be completely fine. They look a lot better groomed up, and they're going to go finish the summer in the cold frame.